The Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome to our show today. It is Friday, October 16th, 2020, halfway through the month, only 18 days left until the election. And I don't know about you, I'm going to be glad when it's over and done with, except, of course, after the election, there's probably going to be a lot of chaos in this country and in the court system here. Anyway, it is Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. And we have a lot to talk about today. Of course, in hour number 2, the lovely Lady Claire will be joining us. Until then, we're going to go through the news until we run out of news. Open the phone lines for your comments, questions, opinions, and observations. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble, and he'll be handling the phones when you call on in. Now, last night, of course, we had these dueling town halls on NBC and the one that carried Biden, which I think was CBS. I'm not really sure. And the differences between the two were obvious. I mean, you had Savannah Guthrie basically came out swinging and attacking Donald Trump and just, interrupting him, interrupting his responses. And the first actual American voter, we are told, genuine personal question, was like 20 minutes into the town hall. Meanwhile, over at Joe Biden's town hall, George Stephanopoulos, well, I wouldn't say that he was throwing softball questions at Joe Biden, was more like puffballs. And one of the things about Joe Biden is he really did not take all that much of a position. Everything that he was asked, it was always, well, it depends. It depends this, it depends that. He really didn't want anybody to nail him down. And somebody asked him, are you going to pack the court? And he says, well, that depends on what happens with Judge Barrett's confirmation. And so he was kind of like, even with the puffball questions, he was like just trying to not say anything that could come back to haunt him somewhere down the road here. Now, there was an undecided African-American voter who asked Biden what his message is for young Black voters, besides the comment he made about if you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. And apparently this man was Cedric Humphrey, progressive Democrat. And basically he said, voting for you is further participation in a system that continually fails to protect them. And that was bang spot on because the Democrats have always courted the Black vote with all kinds of promises of free stuff and special privilege and whatnot. It never really happens. And the Black voters just keep going right back to the Democratic Party, and they have developed this cultural amnesia, forgetting that the Democrats originated in the South in the plantation era and supported slavery. All right. Now, over at MSNBC, they were having some technical difficulties, or maybe it was deliberate, but apparently the audio was terrible. There was a high-pitched whine, and it sounded like the equalization on Trump's microphone was way off. There was no bass. It was just turned up absolutely to the top to make him sound kind of, whiny and certainly skinnier than he actually is here. All right, getting on to the Burisma scandal. This one is not going to go away, and the repercussions from it, the fallout from it, is continuing throughout social media. But apparently, the Biden campaign has now released a statement denying there was ever a meeting between Joe Biden and the Burisma advisor. Now, the statement did not deny the veracity of the emails and the other documents revealed by the New York Post. They did not deny that the laptop was Hunter Biden's. They're just out there saying, we looked at the official schedules from the time and no meeting as alleged by the New York Post ever took place. Well, if you were having a meeting like that, would you put it in your official schedule? Because I'm sure a lot of meetings go on that are not recorded in the official schedules. For example, those meetings between Hillary Clinton and the rest of the plotters of the coup d'etat, the Russiagate people against Donald Trump here. Now, apparently, the latest trove of messages published by the New York Post is showing just how connected China is to the Biden family. And it raises a question if China is funding Joe Biden's campaign through Hunter Biden. And that's a legitimate question. I mean, we're talking about, if Hunter Biden is owned by China, that's a problem. Even more than that, Hunter Biden, with his past record, he's wide open to blackmail. Pressure could be brought to bear on him to bring pressure on his father if his father's the president. And this is a national security threat. Now, Biden has already been caught in yet another lie. He claimed that Hunter Biden did not receive $3.5 million from the former Moscow mayor's wife, Yelena Baturina. And apparently, Biden's private equity firm did receive a $3.5 million wire transfer from Yelena Baturina, according to a report from the United States Senate. Now, during the first presidential debate, Biden denied that this had happened, said the allegation was totally discredited. Well, as it turns out, yes. Bank records show that Baturina wired $3.5 million to a bank account controlled by Rosemont Seneca Thornton as part of a so-called consultancy agreement in early 2014. Now, Rosemont Seneca Thornton LLC is a firm that Biden incorporated, Hunter Biden incorporated, with his longtime business associate, Devin Archer, in May of 2013. So follow the money. It's definitely there. Getting on over to social media, and in my opinion, this is actually the larger story because it's entirely possible that the New York Post messed it up. Okay, but let us decide for ourselves and not try and come on out and say you just can't look at that. But Twitter and Facebook just absolutely put pedal to the metal trying to protect Joe Biden just weeks after some of the executives from Twitter and Facebook joined the Biden transition team. Gee, you think there's a conflict of interest here? And, Twitter was out there saying we can block these because it's hacked material, except the Biden emails weren't hacked. They were found on Biden's laptop that he dropped off at a computer repair store. And at the same time, we need to remember, Twitter had absolutely no problem with President Trump's leaked tax records on the platform, even though those were illegally leaked, illegally revealed, and illegally published here. So anyway, Donald Trump tweeted on out, so terrible that Facebook and Twitter took down the story of smoking gun emails related to sleepy Joe Biden and his son Hunter in the New York Post. It's only the beginning for them. There is nothing worse than a corrupt politician. Repeal Section 230. Now, Section 230 is now being talked about a lot. In fact, there was a Fox News story about it just a few minutes ago. That is the provision within the law that protects social media from lawsuits from people who are feel they're being unfairly censored for violations of the First Amendment. Now, my position is this: if the Citizens United decision says the First Amendment applies to corporations, then the First Amendment applies to corporations. And Trump is already talking about figuring out a way to get that Section 230 repealed or struck down. Now, the Biden campaign is praising the censorship. They're absolutely glad that Twitter and Facebook and apparently Instagram now has joined the team here. They're censoring the New York Post's expose. And of course, remembering that we now have Facebook and Twitter execs on the Biden transition team, again, it's a huge conflict of interest. And the Biden campaign is now out there saying that, well, if YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook all say the story is false, well, then it just must be false. No, the logic doesn't really work that way here. Apparently, over at YouTube, they're on a purge right now of conservative video channels. Somebody one of our members put up the entire list so far on the front page of whatreallyhappened.com, but it includes organizations like SGT Report and other conservative outlets. So they're just being erased from YouTube just 18 days away from the election here. Twitter briefly blocked the link to the GOP page on the Congress website that had a copy of the New York Post story. They're censoring the government. And you have to, upon what meat doth this our Twitter feed that it hath grown so great, for you Shakespeare fans out there. So apparently somebody decided they were going to get back at Twitter, or Twitter in trying to change around their policy, because they announced they were going to do a policy instead of blocking tweets that were going to add a flag saying this is questionable material and you're probably better off not trusting it, which is okay because YouTube does exactly the same thing. And I don't know about you, I never read those little flags they put up there about Russia Today is, funded by the Russian government. I already know that. I don't need you to tell me. Anyway, there was a massive outage on Twitter in eastern and western parts of the United States, including New York and Los Angeles. Apparently, outages were reported in the United Kingdom and Japan. In total, over 50,000 complaints were made between 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time and 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And 60% had trouble with the website. 27% had difficulty using the platform on their iPhone or iPad apps. So something definitely happened there. Okay, but, Twitter has now reversed their course. They're the only one to do so. Okay, and they basically felt the outrage over the censorship. And they're not going to ban the tweets anymore. They're not going to block them, but they are going to add that little flag warning that this, if you read this tweet, your nose will fall off, or whatever it is they're going to put in there. But it is now estimated that because of their activism, their censorship of conservatives and conservative channels, that Google and the other big tech social media companies are going to be able to influence more than 15 million election votes. Now, that to me is election interference. And I did not vote for Google to tell me what I can and cannot read. I did not vote for Facebook to tell me what I should be thinking. These are unelected institutions that are not answerable to the people, unless we all sign off our accounts and delete them, which I think really would be a good thing to happen. All right. Story coming out of Natural News. If Biden wins, the election is null and void because of Facebook, Twitter, Google, and YouTube election interference. And it's basically out there saying that because of these social media companies that handle so much of the conversations between Americans, actively filtering this all out, it does amount to election interference. And if Biden does win, that they consider the election null and void. And I would tend to agree with that. All right. Do you remember the moderator of the first presidential debate, Steve Scully? And he got hit with a small scandal when he tweeted Never Trump personality Anthony Scaramucci saying, should I respond to Trump? He wrote it, then deleted, but not before it was seen here. And he tried to get out of that by saying somebody had hacked his Twitter account and posted things there to make him look bad. Well, it turned out that that was not the first time he used that excuse. And a lot of people were saying, no, we're not buying this one. So he finally admitted that, yes, he lied about his Twitter account being hacked. He really did tweet Anthony Scaramucci. And apparently he has now been permanently suspended by C-SPAN, where he had his regular show here. Okay. Getting into the wider area of politics now, Democratic operatives are demanding Dianne Feinstein step down as a Judiciary Committee ranking member. Apparently, she has enraged people from her own party with her performance on the panel, which ended with her praising Lindsey Graham. You're not apparently allowed to praise people in the opposition party. Little blast from the past here, looking into Hunter Biden's character and why he's in such trouble here. Apparently, Hunter Biden fathered a baby in Arkansas. According to one story, the mother was a stripper. He denied having the baby, but a DNA test revealed that Biden fathered this baby with another woman while he was dating his brother's widow. Now, that's getting just a little bit out there. And again, we're hearing from a couple of different sources that the Biden laptop, was turned over to the FBI by the computer repair shop because they found something on there that the law requires them to report. And over at OAN, one of their reporters was describing it as underage obsession material, which I think is polite speak for child porn. And if that is true, and I don't know that it is, but if it's true, I hope somebody puts it on out there. It'll be attacked immediately. I mean, Biden supporters are already all over the net trying to discredit the photo of Hunter Biden with a crack pipe in his mouth and just say, that's not a real crack pipe. It's, it's Photoshop. It's this, it's that. Well, it still looks really, really bad. And you need to remember just why it was Hunter Biden got kicked out of the military. So it's not the first time that he has been alleged to have a drug problem. Okay. Mail-in ballot is continuing to pile up disaster after disaster. And apparently over in Philadelphia, the wrong group of ballots, 28,879, were mailed out to residents in Allegheny County that covers Pittsburgh on September 28th by the contractor Midwest Direct. And apparently, they're calling it a ballot image mapping error. And apparently, individual voters' information was being matched to the ballot for the next voter in that batch. So all of the ballots were off by one when they got mailed out. It's a huge, huge mess. And I'm not surprised that more and more people are abandoning vote by mail and saying, well, we're going to go ahead and stand in line and vote in person here. All righty. There is a Democratic candidate, a Somali American, Sasido Shai, and apparently she put out a video accusing Minnesota's DFL of paying Somali Americans as much as $200 for their vote. Now, the DFL stands for the Democrat Farmer Labor Party. It is the official Democrat Party organization in Minnesota. But apparently this Sasido Shai put out the video complaining too many voters were demanding she pay them for their vote. This election is just incredibly crooked here. All right, getting on out to protests and other news along those lines here. The cities of Portland and Oakland are suing the Department of Justice and Homeland Security for what they call constitutional overreach after these two departments sent officers with limitless jurisdiction to quell the unrest during protests. And so Portland and Oakland have joined together in this lawsuit to basically sue the government for stepping in to try and do the job they themselves could not do in the face of all these riots here. I mean, look how long that went along in Portland. Portland couldn't deal with it. And so the federal government came on in to try and deal with it, and Portland is suing them now. See what that reveals about the mindset of the Portland government here. All right, getting on into the rioters and whatnot. This is coming from uns.com. And it's basically suggesting, why not just make it legal for blacks to steal as an atonement for white privilege? And it's basically following up on the story we had earlier in the week about these luxury retailers in New York City, many of whom financially supported Black Lives Matter originally. And now they're just standing back and letting looters empty their stores out of fear of being called racist. They're literally being held hostage by the word racist. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more news after these few words.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out the kosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. We need your help to keep doing what we're doing. Equipment wears out. We've got, network fees, telephone bills to pay, and we can't do it without your help here. So once again, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. All right, let's turn our sights over to Denver and the recent shooting and killing the Denver Patriot protester, muster protester. And there are new developments there. Apparently, newly released video footage showing the aftermath of the shooting has raised questions about who, aside from the unlicensed security guard gunman, was armed. Apparently, somebody is heard shouting, "He's got magazines." And now the police are saying that 2 guns were recovered from the scene. That one's getting out there. Okay. Cancel culture is starting to eat itself, and it's kind of fun to watch. Now, there is a place called Collect Pond Park. It's across the street from the courthouse where Harvey Weinstein was sentenced. and it's a statue of Medusa holding the severed head of a man, and it was intentionally made to look like Cellini's original work from the 16th century, Perseus with the head of Medusa, except the statue is female, and the head being clutched in the hand is male. And it's a very good-looking statue. And unfortunately, though, the female body looks a little too good. And all of a sudden, you've got these feminists coming on out saying, you know, it's too skinny, it's too thin, it's too sexy, and the work should have been done by a female sculptor anyway. So they may tear that statue down now. Turning to COVID-19, a lot of stuff that's out there. Trump says he will not force Americans to take a coronavirus vaccine. And apparently the reason for that is polls are showing widespread skepticism about the jab. The concern from people is that these potential vaccines are being rushed through trials. And of course, we've all heard about what happened with AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson, where the subjects in their vaccine trials are coming down with these strange neurological illnesses. And initially the story was, well, they had the illnesses but didn't know them beforehand, but now enough of them have come down with these illnesses where these trials have been put on a pause here. And, you know, Trump told Fox's Stuart Varney, I don't believe I'd ever do a mandated vaccine. He may be recalling the disaster that happened back in 1976 when the swine flu vaccine was made mandatory for all Americans and wound up killing far more people than the swine flu itself. So we don't need to see that again here. Meanwhile, Pfizer is saying it might apply for emergency use authorization of their COVID-19 vaccine by late next month. Over in France, and this sounds like a really good idea. We could use some of this here. French authorities have searched the homes of Health Minister Olivier Véran, former Prime Minister Edouard Philippe, and other officials on Thursday as part of an inquiry into the government's handling of the coronavirus crisis. Now, Véran is one of several current or former ministers under investigation over their response to the pandemic. Following complaints by victims of COVID-19, they were too slow to act. Okay. Story coming out of patriotrising.com. The World Health Organization has finally come to its senses, basically saying that the lockdowns which they earlier supported have created a ghastly global catastrophe by crashing the world economy. Lockdowns are doubling global poverty. And yes, they are. You know, it's, and now they're saying they really didn't work anyway. Neither do the masks, according to the CDC. In fact, the masks make it more likely you're going to get COVID-19 than if you don't wear one. That came out of a CDC report. And Ben Swan, actually, I think, did a video on that. We reported on that earlier in the week. Over in Great Britain, the 94-year-old Queen has left lockdown, was joined by her grandson, the Duke of Cambridge, at Porton Down. And apparently they're going to be tested for COVID so that they can start mingling with the masses yet again. Turning to the international news here, it turns out that Azerbaijan bought $77 million worth of arms from Turkey a month before the fighting began. And we're coming up here on another commercial break. So Azerbaijan bought $77 million worth of arms from Turkey a month before fighting broke out in the Nagorno-Karabakh area. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cashingproperty.com. That's cashingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened? What's really
Welcome back to our show here. And before we go any further here, I have a little bit of an announcement and some information for you. So grab a paper and pencil. And what's going on here, I've just been informed that the provider of our toll-free phone services is going to triple the phone bill. And the only way that RBN can deal with that is to cut down the usage on the 800 number. So I'm going to give you a different number that will reach the studio. It's not toll free, but for most of you calling from within the continental United States, your long distance plan is probably going to cover the cost anyway, so it shouldn't come through as an additional charge for you. So pencils up, and the number is 512-248-8252. And one more time, that's area code 512-248-8252. And please use that one, and try and avoid using the 800 number. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to the phones now to Layla in Canada. Hello, Layla. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, it's the masks. It occurred to me long ago that we really don't know what chemicals are on the surface of the masks and
Yes.
what the interaction is with our warm, humid breath when we
Yeah.
breathe onto those masks, what the combination will be releasing and what we inhale. Never mind the fact that we're inhaling the waste that we're exhaling, which is the carbon dioxide, which we know is harmful. So that explains why oxygen levels would be very low for those who do wear COVID masks for the COVID farce. The other thing I wanted to bring up, if you don't mind, since people have their pencils handy,
Yes.
please, and this is a project that I think Claire would be very interested in because she has the diligence and the patience to look into it. Please go to Inside the Featherbed File. Inside the Featherbed File. It's a really important website. It has never been investigated. You must know about Elizabeth Bentley. She was called the Red Spy Queen in the U.S.
Yes.
She had a spy ring that she was running, and Lester Pearson, Canada's wonderful Liberal Prime Minister, who brought in Pierre Trudeau, who destroyed everything that was honorable about this country, or accountable about this country. Lester Pearson was a member of her spy ring, and when she was interviewed by the FBI and the RCMP and asked, he was then attaché to the Canadian Embassy in D.C. And when Bentley was asked, did Lester Pearson know that he was passing on important information to you in your spy ring? She laughed and said, well, if he didn't know, then he was stupid. But he definitely did know. Further, he was a close friend of Herbert Norman, who committed suicide in Cairo, walking off the 9th floor of a building when he was about to be exposed as a communist. So, the friendly neighbor to the north is not merely a political eunuch, a benign friend. We have actually been the source of, or the part of a continental ring that set the seeds in the 50s and 60s that brought down a lot of the values that once made us so great. Also on that site, you'll find information on Igor Guzenko, Gerda Munsinger, members of the Canadian Parliament who were Soviets, but most importantly, Pierre Trudeau, who was a rabid red communist, went to the communist meetings in Beijing funded by the Chinese Communist Party. And his son, Justin Trudeau, is the one who gave so much power to the communist Chinese here in Canada, which is what enabled the potential theft of the virus that was stolen and taken to the Wuhan lab. And he also put in place Theresa Tam, who was a communist, a member of the Chinese Communist Party and a friend of the head of the WHO. So I won't be calling in for quite a while because I don't think there's any point anymore. I mean, I think whoever wins this election, fair or unfair, I think the outcome is going to be the same. A chaos that endangers the nation, the republic, and ultimately it will have an effect here. I'm
afraid you're right.
One other thing that, I think you've been saying that for a long time. The problem is, I don't think we're going to come down quite the same way as the Soviet Union because they had a coup that was openly attempted, failed, and then each of the member states of the Soviet Union were allowed to vote on whether they wanted to stay in the Union. Instead, many of them voted for independence, and that is what brought down the Soviet Union, along with Mikhail Gorbachev, Yeltsin, and their ideas of perestroika and glasnost and whatever. And they were, especially Mikhail Gorbachev, was part of a group with Maurice Strong that started first with something called Charter for the Planet or Planet Earth Charter, and then it moved on, it morphed into Agenda 21, and then it morphed into numerous other agendas. It's not only the WHO that is corrupt, but it's particularly the UN that has been a serious danger to all of us.
Yes.
It may all be too late. We may be headed for the kind of turmoil that we've desperately been hoping to avoid. I don't think it is avoidable. And as for Trump, even if he wins, I believe he's already undertaken and succeeded in doing an internal coup of the Republican Party. There's going to be a Trump dynasty if the country doesn't fall apart. One of his children is going to run next. No doubt he had already considered putting his daughter Ivanka on his ticket as VP. So next term, if he wins this term, when he finally has his last term, he's going to put one of his children in place, and you'll have a Trump dynasty. And they're not going to be interested. I mean, I rooted strongly for Trump only because the alternative was so reprehensible. However, I think it doesn't really matter who gets elected. Either way, choosing the least evil, or what appears to be the least evil of the choices we have, is not always the right choice. And we all know that Trump failed in a number of areas. And he is a boastful, unpleasant man to watch. So he is not exactly acting in the interests of the U.S. He never has put the interests of anybody but himself first and foremost. And we can see that just by looking at his personal life and what he has done in the last few years. So we're all in this together, in the sense that we're not facing a very good outcome. Both Canada and the U.S. and Mexico watching from the sides and cheering as they watch their wished for outcome for their hated, enemies that they believe just exploited and raped Mexico and Central America. But anyway, Mike, I hope Claire will take the time to look into that file.
Okay,
And,
I'll tell her.
I've got the hard copy book of Elizabeth Bentley, The Red Spy Queen. If you would like, I can send it to Claire, or if it may still be on Amazon. I don't know. But anyway,
All right, we'll look for it on
everybody,
Amazon.
because,
Make Jeff Bezos a little
wishes
richer.
to all of you. Take care.
All
Bye-bye.
right, thanks an awful lot here. And once again, if you have your paper and pencil, we're using a new number to call into this show, and it is area code 512-248-8252. That's area code 512-248-8252. We're going to go back to the phones here to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael, thank you for that new number. Yes, back to your last caller. I believe Justin Trudeau was the son of Fidel Castro. That's what they were saying down here, some of the newspapers. Could be the son of Fidel, another commie, dead commie, good commie. You know, the old saying, the only good commie is you know what? You heard of Mike before.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I've also heard it applied to the Vietnamese, and during World War II, it was applied to the Japanese and the Germans, and earlier than that, it was applied to the Native Americans.
Well, I didn't know that. I just thought it was applied to the communists, the red commies, whatever. Anyway, Mike, getting back to this town hall we had here in Miami yesterday.
Yes.
That was a 23-minute diatribe of nonsense by that Savannah Joker. She looks like the Joker in the first movie with Jack Nicholson when he played the Joker with those big cheeks and that big smile. I mean,
yes.
If you looked at the movie Joker and you looked at that Savannah, what's her name? What's her last name?
I'd have to hunt it down here again. It just slipped my mind. Guthrie.
Yeah, Guthrie, yeah. Well, Savannah Guthrie looks like the Joker in the first movie with Jack. So that was the most disgusting town hall I ever saw in my life. I think Trump handled it well. It took almost 23 minutes before they even got to one of the
yes.
people that were doing this town hall open mic nonsense. Nobody really talked about the illegal invasion of our country. And to your last caller, I wish all these illegals in Central America, Mexico would go up to Canada and go right bypass California. Well, they can keep in California, but don't let them go any further east. Let them go right through California all the way up to Canada. Let them flood into Canada. Let them flood that whole country of Canada. What the heck? Take all the Somalians to Canada, too, while they're at it. And all these other ones that keep coming here. We don't need them here because they're not complimenting me. They're not coming here to compliment. They're coming here to my look at it. The way I'm looking at this, they don't come here to compliment. They come here and eat our lunch, take our jobs.
Yeah, they're coming here for the treat stuff.
Exactly. And I was looking at some of these FBI statistics with the black crime rate. It's astronomical, Mike. Why don't you ever talk about that for 10, 15 minutes? With the real numbers of the FBI, how black on white and compared to white on black crime. It's astronomical.
Yes, it is.
It's way worse than anything we can ever comprehend, unless you people like you who have the control to let other people have the knowledge of what is going on in this country. Which thank God we have you, Mike. Because like I tell everybody, this guy's your show is the most informative. I mean, there's some great hosts. Don't get me wrong, Mike. But you're the most informative, and I'm not trying to blow smoke, but you're the most informative show I've ever heard. So really wake up to the public. it's a shame that you're not syndicated nationwide. I mean, on a major network. You know, Mike, that's another thing I really wanted to talk to you guys. Right, reason I called you. ABC, NBC, CBS, ABC, CBS, NBC, whatever you want to call it. All these networks, CNN, Communist News Network, all these networks are for Biden. His son was kicked out of the military. He was a crackhead. It's already documented in the annals of the military court. Correct,
yes.
Mike?
Correct.
That's all record, correct? So Hunter Biden was a drug addict. He does get three multiple women pregnant with different kids. Joe Biden has 3 different grandkids by 3 different women. Okay,
Yes.
I believe he's even with the brother's wife for a long time.
Yes.
And you know, Mike, that right in there in itself should disqualify this idiot Biden for what's going on with the $3 million from the Russian mayor. I mean, this is unbelievable. If it was done, like Laura Trump said today, if that would have been any of Trump's family, they would be wiped out in the media in 15 minutes and it'll all be over for Trump. Wiped out. Now, the same way that Feinstein can call out a Catholic Supreme Court nominee for the Supreme Court, if a Catholic senator would have said anything about Ginsburg and any of these Jews on the Supreme Court, they would be wiped out in 10 minutes. Am I lying, Mike?
No, you're not lying. It's absolutely true.
Exactly. And then let's get back to this bumbling Biden and his son. How many people lost their homes to foreclosure, couldn't pay their mortgages, lost their homes by the millions, and this guy's running around making $80,000 a month, this Hunter Biden and his bumbling buffoon. Did you see how many homes Joe Biden owns, Mike? Did you see some of the homes this guy owns?
Yep.
It's unbelievable. Right there to self, that's extortion. That's treason right there. There's no way that these stupid electorate people in this country, black, white, Indian, Hispanic, whoever you are, should be voting for this bumbling buffoonery of Biden. Allowing millions of illegals to come here to get health care. And I hear all this, that Guthrie and all these swines talking about what Trump hasn't done or his tax. You know, Donald Trump doesn't even take a presidential salary. In 4 years, he hasn't taken a check from the government.
Yep.
That in itself is over $2 million. He's already paid a quarter. And let me tell your blue state listeners, okay, what I just saw now, Donald Trump has paid over $112 million in federal income tax in the last 15 years. That's what I have on one of these news networks right now I'm looking at. $112 million plus his presidential salary. How much do these people want Trump to pay, Mike? $1 billion? Seriously? What are they ever going to get when he retires at 65? What did they ever give him? What does his 65 get? Does he get a Social Security check? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You guys already paid, what, 115, 20, $120 million? And that's not even his whole lifetime. I believe over his whole lifetime, he's probably paid like $150 million. I mean, goodness gracious. What do they want out of this guy? He doesn't take a salary. He does the job.
They want him to lose.
They want him to lose, exactly, so they can bring their leftist, communist, Bolshevik nonsense into this country. And you know what? They're pumping these blacks up to have total hate. And if it wasn't God, and like I said, Mike, I've been telling you, Uncle Tom, that documentary, Donald Trump should take $20 million out of the RNC and go to every college campus he can flood them. Give out, I guess maybe give away $2-3 million of that copy of Uncle Tom and see if these black or even these white punks will watch this video. Okay? You do have this one white girl that sticks her neck out. I don't know if you heard of her. Her name is Caitlin Bennett. Have you heard of her,
Yes,
Mike?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, she's really something else. I advise some people to watch her videos, what she's got to put up with. She's like Jesse Waters, but she has to put it up with it all day. And the names they call that young lady is disgusting, Mike. It's absolutely it's absurd what they're doing. Because you know what? Most of these white kids are so dang dumb, Mike. It's ridiculous. They don't even know who the second president of the United States is. They don't know nothing about the history of this country. Nothing. This Common Core, these Bush scumbags have put on this country is disgraceful. Jeb Bush is one who was going around saying, I'd rather speak Spanish in my house than English. Well, why don't you move to Mexico, Jeb? Take your family. Well, his son's the only one that's conservative. Do you know that?
Yeah, I know.
Trump. Only his son. The one, remember, the father called that little brown one in the corner? Well, he's the only one that ended up becoming a Republican. You remember that case, Mike?
Yeah, I remember that case.
Yeah. So these Bushes are nothing but skull and bones, filthy liars. They are what they are. They're rats. What they've done to this, especially Jeb. Jeb, that low energy, Donald Trump hit him right off the bat, and he knocked him right out of the park. He is low energy, just like bumbling Biden's low energy. That guy's, I guarantee you, Joe Biden within a year or two is going to need a cane, Mike, or a walker. He's going to need a walker. That's why they're already setting up with Pelosi to get this guy kicked out with the 25th Amendment. You're going to get Biden out, put Kamala Harris in there within 6 months, like I told you yesterday. Kamala Harris will be the president very soon if they win. I don't think they'll win. Unfortunately, though, Trump has got to start talking. He's got to start talking in this next debate about sanctuary cities, Mike. I've been telling you for a year now. Sanctuary city is a key to really bringing out even these white women, because it's all going to come down to the white women, Mike, the white female.
Yeah, I understand that. All right, Tom, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercial. We'll be back with more phone calls after these two words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719 extension 3. 800-724-2719 extension 3.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and
And welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hello, Mike. First, Layla should not be expecting any Christmas cards this year from Joe, Miles, and Tom.
Okay, understood.
Mike, I've been listening to you for 4 years now. Started listening to you before the 2016 election, and want to thank you for all that you do. I learned something from you early on. You mentioned this phrase, and I think it applies to these to the Hunter Biden computer story, laptop story, is limited hangout. And I see no possibility. There's no way that if there are any underage pictures on that computer, that they will be released. All Giuliani is talking about, which is fine, is the business contacts that Hunter Biden has had with Ukraine and China. There will be no release of any information regarding underage girls.
You may be right.
Sensitive topic. The elite is involved in this. There's no possibility. And as far as Giuliani is concerned, I don't trust the guy, because I think you've mentioned his 9/11 controversy.
Yes.
And as well, I've heard from Robert David Steele that he was basically being handled when he was the prosecutor in New York. He was being handled. His handler was Michael Chertoff. And his job was to basically to put out of business the Italian mafia to open up things for the Cosa Nostra from Russia.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know how people feel about Giuliani, but I don't trust the guy. Last thing, Mike, I mentioned before, I really enjoyed True News on the internet with Rick Wiles, and last 2 days they've covered two stories that I have not seen, even in the corporate media. Is this story? I don't know if you've heard about this story of this apparently he's ex-CIA, Alan Perot, and he was talking about the SEAL Team 6,
yes,
an alleged body double, Osama bin Laden body double in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Have you heard about that story?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of.
And Iran was paying $152 billion to cover it up.
We know that was not Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad because he'd actually died before of natural causes.
Right. That's the one thing I have a problem with True News. Apparently, he died in December 2001.
Yes.
But they were saying, according to the CIA fellow, the real Osama bin Laden was in Iran. And I can't imagine the Iranians, a Shia country, giving safe haven to Osama bin Laden. And then lastly, there was a story yesterday, and I had not heard a thing about this, not that I'm surprised, about Hillary's new emails that have been released by Pompeo. But these emails are being featured in a Middle Eastern newspaper based in Dubai. There's no mention of these emails in the U.S.
No, there isn't. I mean, you can go to the State Department website and go through them, but that's going to take a lot of scholarship.
They're not on the State Department website.
They were. Anyway, listen, we got to let you go for station identification. We have 3 more callers on the line, and then we're going to shut the phone lines for the lovely Lady Claire. So we'll be right back.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show here. Hour number 2. We're going to go back and take a few more phone calls. Then we're going to close the lines so that the lovely Lady Claire has her turn at bat, as it were. So let's go to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike. Hi, Claire. I'm glad that Layla's calling in again.
Yes.
I called
Well,
to,
she said it's going to
get
be a
on
while
little,
before she calls in again, so.
I was going to tail something on what she had mentioned, and then Tom said that something about Justin Trudeau being Fidel Castro's son. That's just silly nonsense. Justin Trudeau looks just like his father, and he's just as arrogant as well. So, I mean, I'd call into question his mother. Well, that's exactly what it's doing. But anyway, so Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who ripped off Canada, Petro Canada.
Yes.
So when Layla mentioned him, he was the one that got us into the G7 in the 70s, like that trading bloc, right?
Yes.
And because of that, the governments within Canada couldn't go to the Bank of Canada to finance their deficits at zero or almost zero interest.
Yes.
As all the countries are doing right now with their own central banks. So that changed a lot of the things that had happened inside of Canada. Instantly, debt just skyrocketed, and we were hurting pretty badly. Canada didn't even have a food bank until 1980, 1981. They just didn't exist, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so even though our bank was nationalized in 1935, which means the people of Canada own it, or supposed to, it's still being run by the BIS, right?
Yes.
The Federal Reserve is the biggest member of that, and of course your central bank is privately owned.
Yes.
No one really knows who the owners are, but although, everybody's got pretty good ideas. So these banks, these institutions are used when it's needless to use them because all these countries have treasuries. You have a treasury.
Yes.
We have a treasury. I mean, just create the currency there and let these corrupt politicians spend it as they will. We're looking at, Mike, it's not even over yet, and I bet you right now the deficit in Canada is $500 billion. Put that into some kind of context. That would be like $5 trillion in your country.
Yes.
So, and nothing has been done. We've gone backwards.
The bankers, are at the top of the power pyramid, and everybody says, who's really calling all the shots for what's going on, and it's inevitably going to be, a banker or somebody with huge amounts of money to manipulate society and politics.
The money changers.
Yes, the money changers.
Yeah. Even if your country, you went directly to the Federal Reserve, I think you got 0.25% interest on all this extra stimulus. In Canada, same thing. I think it was like 0.25%, right? But still, if you look at it, if the market were allowed to crash, and I don't mean it because this was done on purpose, but I mean if the market were allowed to crash and all this needless debt, be it written off appropriately. What do they call that? Not liquidity. I can't remember the name. There's a name for it. Ron Paul's big on this stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, but what do? Even if they go to the Bank of Canada and the interest being paid goes right back to the government, it's still a bank bailout because all that cash wouldn't have existed to go right directly to the banks anyway, because that's ultimately where it always ends up.
Yeah, it is. That's the way the system is set up here. These private central banks are giant machines whose purpose it is to transfer the real wealth of ordinary working people into the pockets of the bankers. And it's done very slowly over generation after generation in the hope that we won't pick up what's been going on.
Yep. It's not a giant sucking sound, Mike. It's a really small and almost imperceivable sucking sound.
Yes.
It's gently caressing the wealth out of everyone, and it ends up in these people, and that's the real evil. That is the real evil, and these people have to be stopped. But it's not going to happen because they're so powerful. We're weak.
Well, they're only powerful while the money they
stick
have.
together on anything, Mike.
Say again?
We can't stick together on anything. And if something like that happens, there's always a wedge out there to keep dividing us.
Yes, they're manufactured.
More and more.
Black Lives Matter and Antifa, good examples right there. Anyway, listen, Al, I need to let you. Yeah, I need to let you go here. We've got 2 more phone calls that we need to get through real quick before the Lady Claire comes on. So let's switch over to Dirty South in Texas. Hello, Dirt. What's on your mind today? Are you there? We lost him. All right, then let's go to Ray in Arizona. Hello, Ray. Welcome to the show. Hello?
Hey, you hear me, Mike?
Yeah. Who is this?
This is Matthew in Texas.
Ah, okay. So you were Dirty South in Texas. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Oh, goodness. Hey, Shark Talayla, it's good to hear you again. There's a lot of stuff going on this network, which is disappointing, to say the least. John in Barbados, he passed away. We miss him. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of good people that call in, and we get tired of people. And I'm tired of hearing this fucking pardon my French. And I'm gonna end up right there. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Ray in Arizona. Hello, Ray. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, Mike, I wanted to expand on the mainstream media has always been controlled. I think around the 70s to 80s, it became a right-wing, left-wing type of thing. As we see how Fox is supposed to be the conservative side of the media. But I'm saying is that they're controlled by the same people who control the left. And we've seen that because everything that's reported is a script, and they never question the script, anything from 9/11 to weapons of mass destructions, all the false flags, right up until COVID. It's scripted, and Fox never questions the script. They have people like Carlson who will cheerlead us on social and cultural issues. But if they go beyond that script, you saw what happened to him. You saw now they have to come out and on the open because their leaders are going into desperation mode.
Yes.
We saw how McCallum cut off Giuliani about a year ago when he started coming out with documentation and names as far as the dossier. We saw how Hannity, he savaged Buchanan when Buchanan disagreed with him on the Syrian war. You know, this is all just recent. And then remember when Faulkner shut down Karl Rove just a few weeks ago. They're showing that they've always been controlled. And Americans, 90% of us, we are not effective enough to know what's going on because we're controlled and we don't know that. That's my point.
I think the American people are picking up on that. Especially with this scandal over the corporate social media, filtering conservative content. I think your basic average American is now realizing that we've stopped being a country of free exchange of ideas and that even our computers are propagandizing us for the political powers that be.
Everything, the television commercials.
Yes.
Like, here's the deal is that COVID if you look at all the pandemics we had in the past, when was the last time you saw one where within a matter of a week or two after it appears, it's affecting celebrities and world leaders and people falling dead in the streets on opposite sides of the world? I mean, if that's not contrived, you see my point? Is that COVID?
Well, I think it's definitely being exploited. I think it's definitely being exploited. Never let a good crisis go to waste. And one of the things that has confused the whole issue of COVID-19 is that everybody is trying to exploit it to push whatever their own personal agenda happens to be.
It was contrived. It was lab created, Mike. There's documentation showing, patents. It's got names like Pirbright Institute, Glaxo Wellcome, North Carolina University, Harvard, Fauci having investments in certain types of delivery systems in COVID.
Yes.
I mean, you see all this, and then you put it together, and it screams not just a natural. I mean, even the movement, even the way that this contagion moves, it's not natural. It's selective. If they need to target an area or certain people or certain groups, that you see it happen. See, so if people can't see that, you had a caller yesterday saying to connect the dots. People don't connect dots because they don't remember what happened after 2 weeks prior. And that's our biggest problem, is the regular people, like you say, have to wake up.
Well, that's what we're doing here at RBN. Is we're trying to wake up the public. And I think we've done a real good job of it over the last several years, which is, why we're seeing the liberal media in a state of panic to the point. I mean, let's face it, what Facebook and Twitter and Google and Instagram did to block the New York Post story is the sign of utter desperation on their part. If they really felt secure in their political power and in the election, they would have just let the story come and go. And as you say, 2 weeks from now, nobody would remember it. But now they've turned it into a major, major story. And now everybody's finding it to try and see what all the fuss was about.
Right. Well, I mean, it's pretty late in the game. Let's just hope that things play out, because honestly, if Trump loses, they're going to go after us. They're going to terminate this country. Their plan always was for the UN to become, and they were delayed and derailed by Trump's victory, but they haven't given up.
No, and, unfortunately, they're pushing this whole socialist utopia idea, which, wrecked the former Soviet Union. So why they want to try it again here, I don't know. And they seem to have abandoned the formula that did make this nation great at the very, very beginning, which was what was enshrined in the Constitution by the Founding Fathers: small, limited central government, the most of the power and authority reserved to the states and to the people. And we were just allowed to go about our business, starting companies, inventing things, and it worked really well. And it did make the United States, if not the greatest nation on earth, certainly one of them. But more and more, as we see liberalism take over our system, America has gone into a very noticeable and obvious decline.
Well, see, the point being is that this is not Americans doing it themselves. This is the globalist agenda that started in the early 1900s that's trying to finalize their objective. And that's
and a free and independent United States stands in their way, as does a Russia.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to finalize what they had already intended to do, from their whole globalization thing starting. I mean, they started both world wars with that intention. They created the UN after they failed with the League of Nations.
Yes.
So they had to start World War II to get the UN. So, it's an intergenerational.
And the United Nations will probably collapse in the wake of World War III. Anyway, Ray, I need to let you go here. Thank you very much for the phone call. All right. The phone lines are closed right now. We may reopen them a little bit more into the show, but it's time now for the lovely Lady Claire. So Lady Claire, please take it away.
Thank you, Mike. Apparently, Britain's new spy chief says China's quote unquote covert activities are the biggest long-term threat to
Gosh
the
darn
West.
those Chinese.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a rare public interview, the new chief of Britain's domestic security service, MI5, has vowed to do more in taking on China at a moment fears of Russian interference in UK elections has been supplanted by what's increasingly seen as the greater and more sophisticated covert activities out of China's intelligence.
Like bribing a former vice president here in the United States
Hello, yes.
through his son.
Yeah, the national security challenges presented by Russian, Chinese, Iranian. Anyone get kind of a grouping here? I'm just saying.
Well, this is the list of countries that do not get a Christmas card this year.
They're growing in severity and in complexity, MI5 Director Ken McCallum told a security briefing, and UK media later reported in the Financial Times. But while he acknowledged that the threat from these hostile actors makes for a nasty mix, it remains that Beijing's espionage activities mark a unique kind of danger, according to the security services chief. Ken, we never talk anymore. But if in fact you are seeing these kind of activities, I have to pull back a little bit and say, what is pushing these people together? Perhaps maybe foreign policies from Europe, the UK, and the United States.
Nah, couldn't be.
That are forcing them to do things other than they might do. Okay.
Yes.
And horrendous foreign policy decisions, because the further one pushes alleged enemies together, the more they are going to want to ignore the countries with punitive policies toward them, right?
Well, absolutely.
I mean, Mike, your thoughts, please.
Well, I mean, go back and look at World War II,
Yeah.
where the threat of Nazi Germany drew together countries that previously had had very strained relations,
Yeah.
and they just put that all aside and said, you know, we have got to unite together in the face of this threat to our well-being. Well, to this generation, it's the aggressive United States foreign policy that is scaring other nations to set aside their differences and start to unite together.
Absolutely. You know, this issue of the most current sanctions against Iran,
Yes.
medicine, food, humanitarian supplies.
Yes.
What is this administration thinking?
Well, they're trying to goad Iran into doing something provocative
Yeah.
that can then be presented to us by the corporate media as, oh, look what Iran just did, those horrible people. And Iran, of course, is refusing to take that bait. So I'm expecting there to be a false flag attack blamed on Iran. Do we have any more skyscrapers that can be knocked over?
Oh, I don't even want to go
Probably
there.
there's one or two around here. Maybe
Yeah.
they could knock over the new World Trade Center and say, look, those dastardly Iranians, and look what they did.
You know, all I can think of right now is that book by Stinnett's, Day of Deceit,
Yes.
about how the United States goaded Japan into attacking Pearl Harbor.
And deliberately did not inform the Hawaii commanders that, you know, the intelligence agencies knew the attacking fleet was on the way.
Yeah.
They had been picked up by intercept stations all around the Pacific Rim here. Contrary to the propaganda you got in your school, the Japanese fleet did not, in fact, maintain radio silence. In fact, the larger ships were able to receive messages from Commander Yamamoto on the mainland Japan. They had to rebroadcast those messages to the smaller ships with weaker radios, and those retransmissions were being picked up.
Yeah.
They were so powerful that a cruise ship, the SS Lurline, and their radio man, Grogan, was picking up these Japanese transmissions, and he actually plotted them on a map that he turned over to the Navy on December 3rd, 1941. And that has since vanished.
Amazing.
Yeah. And, you know, Roosevelt needed the attack to get the U.S. into the war with Japan, although what he really wanted and got was the war against Nazi Germany. Okay, we got to take a break for commercials here, and we'll be back with more of the lovely Lady Claire after these few.
So you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Please view, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stop terrorism. Please contact us if you or anyone you know who wants to be on our show at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com. Keep it real. Take the red pill.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And welcome back to our show here. And lovely Lady Claire, what is next?
Next is an article from Zero Hedge. For those who may not read it, I think it's one of the most sober-sided blogs that I have found,
Yes.
and they have my respect.
Yes, they've been around for a while.
Yeah. And this article is titled NATO, Energy, Geopolitics, and Conflict in the Caucasus. And talking about looking at a few kind of recent upheavals. First, we have the renewed pressure on Germany and Europe to abandon the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia. And we had that strange bit with the Navalny affair and his alleged poison assassination conveniently gives cover to what would otherwise be an unprecedented backsliding on strategic energy trade. Then we have the resurgence in armed conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the disputed enclave territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, a key factor in all of this also is NATO's long-term plans to expand membership of the U.S.-led military alliance in the Caucasus and Central Asia along Russia's southern periphery.
Which is
Can we
making
say
Russia,
on the border?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, which is making Russia very, very nervous because, you know, they were told originally
Mhm.
that NATO's eastern border would basically end on the eastern border of Germany. And then all of a sudden,
surprise, surprise.
They're gobbling up more
Yeah.
countries and trying to encircle Russia.
Yeah. And political analyst, this is another guy you need to pay attention to, Rick Rozoff.
Yes.
He comments that the flare-up in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict is very consistent with Turkey's years-long agenda of bringing Azerbaijan into NATO membership.
Now, refresh my memory. What part of Azerbaijan actually borders the Atlantic Ocean, or the North Atlantic, to be specific?
I don't think it does, dear. It's kind of landlocked in Central Asia.
That's what I thought here.
Yeah.
So, what is an organization that has North Atlantic in its name doing in such far-flung places?
Yeah. And so apparently what Erdogan is trying to do is to force a resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh dispute in favor of Azerbaijan, whereby the latter reclaims its historic territory from Armenian separatists. Now, for NATO to move forward with absorbing Azerbaijan into the alliance, there must be a settlement to the long-running frozen conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The two sides actually went to war over Nagorno-Karabakh from 1988 to 1994. And every so often, you're seeing a rumble in Central Asia, skirmishes.
They scream bad names at each other across
Something
that
like
border.
that, yes. And at the end of last month, the conflict blew up again on account of a recent surge in rhetoric from Azeri leaders and their Turkish patrons about recovering sovereign lands. Now, what Rozoff is suggesting is that there is an analogy here to other post-Soviet frozen conflicts in South Ossetia, Abkhazia, and Transnistria. So for NATO to incorporate, let's say, Georgia and Moldova, as it intends to do, there is a requirement of Georgia and Moldova to gain control over their respective breakaway regions. Now, there was a brief war in 2008 between Georgia and South Ossetia when the former attacked the latter only to be repelled by a Russian intervention. And it was triggered by NATO's ambition to recruit Georgia. But with NATO's expansionism, it's more than mere militarism for militarism's sake. And to be sure, having American missiles stationed around Russia's underbelly is to be desired in the game of great political rivalry.
Great power rivalry.
Yes.
And by the way, that was exactly the provocation that led to the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yes. And however, there's a more specific and equally enormous strategic aim, and that is supplanting Russia and Iranian energy supplies to Europe with an alternative route from the south. The Caspian oil and gas riches have long been sought after. It was a driving goal, actually, for Hitler's Wehrmacht to reach as it battled across the Russian space. The Trans-Caspian gas pipeline is proposing to supply natural gas from Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan through the critical Azerbaijani hub of Baku and on to Turkey, from where it can join existing pipeline networks into Central Asia. Mike, your thoughts on this, please. Does this make sense to you?
Well, it really does in
Yeah.
a world in which we're starting to fight wars over our dwindling oil resources. And I wonder how much longer it's going to be before we're fighting over water.
Yeah.
But yes, those oil pipelines are more than just economic assets. They are of strategic importance. And the idea of finding pipelines and oil sources that are outside Russia is all about trying to cripple Russia's economy. Because Russia's a large part of Russia's economy is their oil and gas exports. But I suspect in the light of events that followed the failed oil price war issue, Russia has already diversified their economy and will continue to do so. All right, we need to take another break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these cues.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. John Hess, 5 out of 5 stars. Awesome. Probably my only review, but at age 40, I was getting bad heartthrob and left arm pain, mainly before bed. I even stopped smoking and drinking sodas for a month, and that didn't work. After one day of taking Extendovite, it was gone and hasn't returned in 3 years. I've ordered Extendovite 13 times, so Amazon just said. Juliet Hordick. I've ordered this product before in liquid form. It is fantastic. My whole family's been on it. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy, but I must admit lately I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And welcome back to our show here. And lovely Lady Claire, take it away.
Apparently, this is a statement made by an Armenian official. Nearly 4,000 Syrian and Libyan militants are fighting with Azerbaijan. Now, the presence of these anti-Armenian jihadists is dangerous, and even more so if we take into account what the UN Secretary General called which he called for a stop to the fighting to prevent the COVID epidemic from getting worse. The former Armenian ambassador confirmed in statements to the Italian AKI news agency. He asked, where is the credibility of the policies of some European countries? Now, Turkey, and we know that Turkey has been monumentally responsible.
Yes.
I think both for the timing and the re-explosion, if you will, of tensions in this area.
Yes.
Turkey has been accused of recruiting Syrian militants to fight against the Armenian forces in Karabakh following their campaign in Libya. And in a rare confirmation, the Wall Street Journal reported this week that hundreds of fighters from Syrian militants allied with Turkey have
Syrian militias.
Yes, have allied with Turkey in joining the fighting between Azerbaijan and Armenia over the disputed enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh. And hundreds more are preparing to go, according to 2 Syrians involved in the effort.
Now, who's
Mike,
paying for all of this?
Yeah, I kind of have to wonder, wouldn't these be the same U.S. Israeli trained and funded jihad people who were hounding the Syrian government until Russia stepped in to create a balance of power here? Wouldn't those be?
Well, it certainly sounds like it.
Yeah.
And, which unfortunately means they're experienced and battle hardened, which is going to make things a little bit rougher. But, we could see Russia step in on the other side again, like they did in Syria.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very dangerous game. And there are all kinds of things that could be put into place. For example, Russia and Armenia do have a mutual defense pact.
Yes, they do.
And if Russia steps in,
well, Turkey is now threatening direct military action outside of the Nagorno-Karabakh enclave.
Yeah.
And, if Russia comes in on the other side, then Turkey invokes NATO, and this could easily escalate to a regional, if not world war.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I'm thinking we're going to see happen this next year. Sadly, I've been working to prevent it, but I think it's going to happen next year.
And let's bob on over to Israel. I have
Let's
a few
not.
things.
They'd shoot us as soon as we got off the airplane.
Dear, we can't go to Israel. We'd wind up quite dead.
That's true.
Apparently, Israel is now advancing more settlements as the Knesset approves the UAE normalization deal. Now, there are plans for about 5,000 new settler homes, which have been advanced in the last couple of days.
Now, you need to remember that supposedly within that agreement with the UAE and with the other Mideast was, a promise to freeze settlement expansion.
Right.
The ink isn't even dry on this agreement, and already Israel's out there, being Israel.
And apparently, they're going to plan for about 2,700 new settler homes in the occupied West Bank. This was agreed upon on Thursday, ending a 2-day session that pushed forward about 5,000 new settlements. And this came as the Knesset, Israel's parliament, overwhelmingly approved the normalization deal with the UAE, an agreement that, as you said, was once rumored to include a settlement freeze. Well, that didn't happen.
No, that didn't happen.
And according to the Times of Israel, plans for 4,948 settler homes were advanced by Israel's Civil Administration's High Planning Subcommittee, with 2,688 homes approved for final construction and 2,260 approved for earlier stages of planning. And several hundred of the homes were already constructed and were approved retroactively.
Yes.
Now, the approvals brought the number of settler homes advanced this year to 12,159, a record number. According to the Israeli NGO Peace Now, the NGO said that the number is the highest since President Trump took office in 2017, surpassing last year's numbers by 4,000.
Yep.
It's the most settlements advanced since Peace Now began recording in 2012. And in a related story, also from antiwar.com, we have the following. Now, apparently, Sudan is moving to normalize relationships with Israel.
Yes.
Sources have told Israeli media that the U.S. is giving Sudan an ultimatum over the terror list on which it currently exists. And they're saying, normalize your relationships with Israel. We'll take you off.
Take you off the terrorist list, and that will open up other opportunities and remove certain sanctions and so forth.
And apparently, this has appeared in Israel's I-24 News, reported Thursday that Sudan's ruling council decided to move forward with normalizing ties after being given this ultimatum. And apparently, the Sudanese Sovereignty Council made the decision late Wednesday night, as the U.S. gave Sudan 24 hours to respond to their ultimatum. So do it or else.
Yes.
And so in exchange, Sudan is now going to be removed from Washington's terror list. They were designated by the U.S. as a state sponsor of terror in the U.S. since 1993. Now, Khartoum has been negotiating with the U.S. to be removed from that list for over a year. And one of the recent requirements was the normalization of relations with Israel in order to be removed from the blacklist. And apparently, again, from I-24 Israeli News, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and Sudan's Sovereignty Council Chair Abdel Fattah al-Burhan are expected to meet soon to discuss the prospects of normalizing relations.
If Netanyahu can cling on to power, apparently the riots against him in Israel are growing, even in defiance of orders not to have protests and riots to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's there are always the real reasons and the pretend reasons, if you will. Now, also at antiwar.com, we are finding the following reality. Israel is kicking out human rights organizations with the gall to still be reporting on repression against the Palestinians.
They've stopped issuing visas to any human rights
passports,
groups.
They can't get to where the problems are happening.
Yes.
And worse, here is a follow-through story which may make you kind of rethink about Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. Now, there is new legislation afoot to criminalize anti-occupation human rights work.
Yes.
And this comes to us from the Adamir Prisoner Support and Human Rights Association on Wednesday. In yet another attempt at disrupting the work of human rights organizations, the Likud MKs Avi Dichter, Matan Cohen, and others proposed to amend a bill which would amend Article 11(4)(c) of Israel's penal law. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to broaden the definition of foreign agents and how these are to be, defined. Now, Article 114A of the Penal Code imposes a 15-year prison sentence against anyone who knowingly contacted a foreign agent without providing explanations. The bill suggests a change to the terminology, replacing foreign state with foreign political entity. What does this mean? As defined by Article 36A of the organization's laws, which includes but is not limited to any foreign state, union, organization, or group of foreign states, organizations, authorities, or delegations of a foreign state. And to bring this all home and unpack it, the potential broadening of the definition of a foreign state and adopting the definition of the organization's laws as part of the penal law's terminology is a clear manifestation of the increasingly shrinking space in which human rights organizations are trapped. And it explicitly targets, as stressed in the explanatory notes, organizations that cooperate with or receive support from the EU and the PA. It seeks to further curtail the work of human rights organizations through portraying their work as contacts with foreign entities. Now, adopting this terminology as part of the penal law criminalizes the work of Palestinian human rights organizations and keeps them constantly under the radar of Israeli persecution, accusations, and threats.
Well, they're definitely throwing the Palestinians under the bus here. All right, we're getting close to the end of the show here, so we're going to open up the phone lines again. And again, folks, paper and pencil, the number to call is area code 512-248-8252. That's area code 512-248-8252. And while we're waiting for the flood of telephone calls to come on in, what else do you have for us?
Well, I would like to take this to the next level.
Okay.
And I am reasonably certain, thanks to the chronically unregistered agents of AIPAC, that such laws are going to be translated into the American National Penal Code in short order.
Yes.
And if you can prevent the narrative from happening and providing criminal penalties against people who are witness to this narrative, the Palestinian narrative will be very close to being completely silenced in the West.
Well, absolutely. Just like they're trying to silence that New York Post story about the Bidens. We're seeing tyrannical control come crashing down. They're over in Congress. They're talking about passing a bill that would allow Israel to veto any U.S. arms sale to any country in order for Israel to maintain its qualitative edge. I am appalled by this. All right, we're going to go ahead and grab a phone call from David in Boston. Hello, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael, and aloha, Lady Claire.
Yes, aloha.
You can hear me, yeah. Mike, you know, I still think Lady Claire's being modest when she says, when she denies that she taught Stephen Cohen everything that he knows. But anyway, Mike, could I very quickly give you an old weblog address that I used to have from way back over like about 10 years ago? Could I give it really quickly? I think you would enjoy. I wrote about a half a dozen really good essays, and they're pretty. Lady Claire would enjoy reading them, but the special, the one I'd really like to draw attention to was my essay, Two Can Play Trash.
Yes.
Two can play trash. But the weblog, and this is all one word, small case. It'll give people something to do over the weekend. But Dave from Massachusetts, small case, one word, Dave from Massachusetts, .wordpress.com. So Dave from Massachusetts .wordpress.com with special. I think you'd like some of my essays are kind of, well, not kind of, they're religious, some of them, not all of them, Michael, but the one, Two Can Play Trash, it's not really religious, but I really want to emphasize that because I get so tired of people being so frustrated that they're so helpless that what can we do? Oh, what can we do? And hand wringing and, but what can we do? We're helpless and everything. Well, you read Two Can Play Trash and you'll find out that you're not as helpless as you thought you were. So with that, Michael, I didn't have too much to say. Well, the only thing I'll say about this Armenia-Azerbaijan thing is that Lady Claire is so interested in it and everything. A guy that talks about a lot. I mentioned him to you before, Michael, but out of New York, John Batchelor. His show comes on every weekday night. It'll be on tonight. In Boston here, it's on. The John Batchelor Show. And he was, like I say, he was broadcasting from Azerbaijan. Did some shows. I spent about a week or two over there broadcasting. But he's a rabid Zionist, and he's all sided in with the Azerbaijanis against the Armenians and everything. But he's got a pretty neat show for a Zionist and everything. The quality of the show is really special. He doesn't take callers, but he has guests. Actually, if we have, ironically enough, a fairly frequent guest of his is Professor Stephen Cohen. And, the John Batchelor out of New York, so you'll be able to find that. You're really handy with the internet and everything. So anyways, I'm looking forward to November 3rd so I can vote for Lady Claire.
Okay. Well, she said she didn't want the job, write my name in instead. I'm running under the campaign slogan, he could hardly do any worse.
Well, now, how do you spell Claire? C-L-A-R-E or?
No, C-L-A-I-R-E.
It's the French spelling that
Okay.
confuses everyone.
All right, well, I'll let you guys go, and I'll be listening to, hopefully you can get one or two more of your great callers. You get the best audience, Michael.
All right.
Because you're the best. I think you draw the best, So, all right. Aloha, Lady Claire. Bye now.
Aloha. Thank you very much. We're going to switch over to Sebastian in Sweden. Hello, Sebastian. Welcome to the show. I may have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mike. I was just thinking about a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, I heard that the Lady Claire talked about the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, and I've been there. I was there in 1972, and the guide, when we were walking through, she said, I think she said that if you looked at every object 3 minutes, it would take you something like 25 to 30 years to get through.
Yes.
And I was interested in miniature portraits at that time. So I just wanted to get to the miniature portrait section. So I asked her, and she said, "Yeah, go down here and this way, right, left." And I stopped at the Fabergé eggs, and I couldn't get out of that. They were so fantastic.
Yes.
These jewel eggs. It's remarkable. And I've been there 2 times since, and I never had a chance to get back to the Hermitage Museum, which I would love to do. And I heard that they have recreated the Amber Room.
Yes.
Now that the Germans took in the Second World War, and I would love to get to see that. If this COVID need to never,
All right,
made
well,
it so I could get there and back.
All right,
Thank you very
well,
much. You take care, and Lady Claire, thank you very much.
all
Take
right.
care,
Thank
Mike.
you very much. Here, we got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the energy cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
After about a month of Extendovite, I don't know what it is about the circulation factor. I was able to increase the weight, increase the amount of sets I could do. It has to do with the oxygen getting to the blood. You should market this as an athletic performance. And I don't change anything about my diet or anything. I just thought, this is amazing. Bilberry extract is got something called resveratrol in it, which is the same stuff that you get from red wine. It's also good for eyesight. And I was reading that the Royal Air Force during World War II would give their pilots bilberry jam so they could have better night vision stuff. This is amazing.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program on this Pauhana Friday. We're going to go back to the phones to Joseph in Hawaii. Aloha, Joseph. What's on your mind today?
Aloha, Michael. Aloha, Claire. You guys are looking great. I know we have a little bit of time, but I just wanted to make a comment regarding Trump's taxes, and everybody uses the argument, or not everybody, but a lot of people use the argument about, well, what he did was perfectly legal, kind of
Yes.
as an out for him or something. But I want to, I've been very frustrated just with both Biden and Trump in terms of their, what I would call a level of presidential stature. I look for a president to have a certain sense of honor and decorum about that person, and when I see the way they behave, especially in the debates, it's just so belittling of what
It
I
does
think,
reflect badly on the American culture. It really does.
yeah, and on their characters. And so, but I wanted to get back to the tax issue in that argument because, I look at it as a way that paying your taxes is kind of a duty, and if you are going to find a way to find loopholes and all that other means that especially the rich can find, then it's very ironic that you would seek a position that then you are in a decision-making capacity to spend those tax dollars. And, you have a decision to make on your fellow person's tax dollars. And I want to liken this to an example of a draft dodger. If it's your duty, in a way, and you can find legal loopholes.
Let me cut in here because we really are short on time. There are a lot of Americans who don't feel taxes are a duty. They feel they are a burden and they're not getting value for the money that goes into the government. Now, the people who tried to make a big deal out of Trump's tax returns, they cherry-picked the few years where because of his massive business losses, he wound up not paying a lot in taxes. But if you widen out the scope, you find out that indeed he has paid hundreds of millions in federal income tax on his business empire. But everybody has a bad year, and on the bad years, you are allowed to deduct things from your taxable income. Even ordinary Americans, if they have medical costs that are not covered by insurance, they can deduct that. They can deduct the mortgage interest. There's all kinds of ways that a tax professional can lower your tax burden. The important thing is Trump's tax records did not reveal anything he did illegally, nor what the Democrats were hoping to find was it going to show a link from Trump to Russia, and that was not there as well. Anyway, Joseph, we got to let you go here because we're almost at the end of the show. All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
And I want to leave you with the following thought here. Setting aside the New York Post stories, we're all familiar with the way Hunter Biden has behaved throughout his life, being thrown out of the military for drug use, sleeping with his brother's widow, fathering children by 3 different women, one of them including a stripper. And it occurs to me that if Joseph Biden can't manage his own son, then he certainly cannot manage an entire country. And on that note, there's the music. It's time for us to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We're not going to be able to make it without your help. We'll be back on Monday. Aloha, America.
Oh, yeah.